Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. And today I've been thinking for a long time, I'd really like to offer readings to the greater community. And every time I think about doing that and thinking about like how do I want to structure the reading, what kind of spread do I want to use, what decks do I want to use, do I want to use a particular deck to structure the reading? Um, I get kind of tangled up in it, and I've run multiple experiments intending to put the results of them on Instagram, and then I don't because, things come up. So today I thought I would just run the experiment on YouTube and make the video and promise myself to upload it. So, and keeping it as concise as possible. We'll see how well that works. So today, before we start, I would like to share that I am drinking out of a lovely mug that my very own Tom made. It is a dragon, and it is a teacup. It's some kind of dragon anyway. That is a little indentation with, like where you put your thumb. And you can kind of see, I don't want to show the bottom of it exactly, but he put underglaze, black underglaze on the foot just for fun. But it's got like bits of old underglaze mixed in with the porcelain, and this dragon is like water carved, and it goes up like onto the lip of the cup. It's one of my favorites that he's made, and inside it there is this lovely gingerberry kombucha. So it is a treat and a sort of tea, fermented tea, all in one. How about that? Mm-mm-mm. And it's really tasty. I love this. Anybody else drink kombucha? It's good stuff. It's really nice. If you're a vegan, it's a good way to get some, what is it called? Probiotics. Probiotics. Those are good. You want those. All right, so back to the whole reading thing. I just can't sometimes resist like being silly. You'll get more silliness from me. I'm definitely coming back to being silly again. But for now, we're going to talk about the reading that I'm going to do, which is going to be the general reading by Paul Foster Case, offered to the community as a community reading, like a reading for all of us for the coming week, starting the 20th of September on a Friday. So what I did was I already went through all of the machinations of shuffling, choosing the significator, separating into piles, finding the significator in which pile, taking that pile, spreading it out into a circle, counting the cards, selecting the cards, etc. I pulled them and I laid them and put them in this little pile here face down. I have not tried to read them or anything yet. I just figured it's a really long process. That said, if you would like to see that process in another video and watch me go through that, I would love to do that. That's a very fun thing for me, but I also realize it may not be very fun for everybody. If you have an interest or an aversion, kindly let your opinion be known, because I'm curious. But the significator I selected for us is the Fool, and that's intended intentionally like as a gender-neutral choice. I am going to read with the Marielle, first edition. Also, I just love the first edition, but I've also numbered numbered the cards so you can see kind of how I've taught myself how to do this one, and I did teach myself with my original first edition Marielle. So all of my Marielle first edition, let's go this way, yeah, now has these kind of hideous Sharpied numbers on them, which I actually kind of love. It's kind of like the way that I bookmark things and, mark up pages and stuff and do that sort of thing. I don't know, it makes it more my deck in its own way. And I love this deck. This is the first Marielle deck that I had. It has been shuffled and abused out the wazoo, and it's still hanging in there. So, good deck. Yeah, so I chose the significator as the Fool. And the way I'd like to focus the reading is because I feel strongly that as a world right now, not to be super cheesy, but what the world needs now is love. pure love. It's the truth. It's really true. We do. We need more love. We need more compassion. We need more self-compassion and more of an ability to like forgive ourselves for things that we do. And to just kind of open our hearts. It's so easy right now to become numb. And I find myself doing a lot of that. And I don't want to be someone who spends a lot of their life being numb and kind of shutting things out. Because the world is painful right now in so many ways. So sometimes we need some help with that. So I thought, well, maybe what I want to do is a self-compassion reading, and I'll focus everything I do around the Amenti Oracle. Now what I'm thinking is just using the general reading to come up with, well, let me think that one through again. Hang on. Doing a general reading, but focusing the direction of how I read the cards that are chosen through the Amenti Oracle. So that's the intention there. And I've edged my little deck here really nicely in pistachio. So I haven't chosen the Amenti card yet. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to ask, what do we need? Where do we need to focus the lightening of our hearts and the beauty of our heart's energy this week? And the cards will then guide us, and I have goosebumps all up and down my arms right now, folks. The energy of this will guide us towards greater self-compassion and an open heart, loving, light heart. We'll see if it wants to spit a card at us. There's several that just kind of popped out to the side there. I know that when Nina reads, she'll let, Nina from Shovel Tarot will let the side cards be one. But if I did that, I would never get through. I tend to be messy. I think what I will do is take a few breaths and just cut the deck. That's another way I like to get a card. When I do that, my hands always tingle. And then I should show sometime. The deck will almost part somewhere in the middle. Okay, so the card that I got, wow. So our card for this week, I am open to love in various forms. So important. So we'll come back to this again. I did write, and again, oops, over here in Sharpie, Queen Sept and I were discussing this deck at one point, and she had suggested take a skinny Sharpie and just number the cards because they're not numbered, which makes it hard to find them in the book. Okay, so we have I am open to love in various forms. So let's see what the cards were that we drew for this week. So in the general reading, again, we had the Fool as the significator for each of us, because we're all on a journey. And the first card we have, and I'm going to put them out so I can see them as a journey. I have the Empress first. The second card is the Death card. Card 3 is the Four of Discs. Card 4 is the Seven of Discs. And the final card is the Page of Swords. So, so when we look at starting with the Empress is, you know, very much it's divine feminine energy. And in the Marielle deck, that divine feminine energy is really placed on mothers and motherhood. And it reminds me of this idea that underpins a lot of different Buddhist traditions, which is the idea that everything in the world is your mother. For those of us who have really difficult relationships with our mothers, that's really hard to hear. I will be the first to admit, it's interesting that this was the first one, because I have such an awful relationship with my mom in so many ways, and yet, you know, it is what it is, and I still love her. So if I were to think of like what is the ideal mother in the world, the ideal mother is what nurtures us, right? What brings us nurturing, what brings us the things that we didn't get from our original mother. And when you think about the whole world or everything in the world being our mother, it makes a lot of sense because we're nurtured in every possible direction by everything that we come into contact with. Someone has to grow the food that we eat. It has to be delivered and passed through hundreds and hundreds of different hands before it ever even reaches the grocery store. And then by the time we purchase it and bring it home, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. So all of those people in their own way are part of the nurturing that we experience. So perhaps the Empress and this idea of the Divine Mother and the Divine Goddess is recognizing those factors in our lives that bring us nurturing, that bring us our ability to keep our bodies and our minds together, and really noticing what those things are. That's so curious, because then again, we're open to love. Through doing that, we're open to love in various forms. So we move on from that, and we have the Death card. And the Death card, of course, is very much about transformation and transforming things. So perhaps what we're doing is transforming our view about what mother is, what mother means, what it means to be nurtured, and the way that we view the world. And part of that view may also be death. It may also be the acceptance of the reality of our own impermanence. You know, we don't get to live here forever. We don't get to be in these bodies forever. So if that's the case, it's all the more reason to really look at transforming that perspective and making it into one that is more open to receiving love and more open to recognizing all of the sources of nourishment and the fact that everything we come into contact with that brings us anything, the cars that we drive, it's all a form of nourishment. But think too, how many things have to die as a part of that? So we're looking at death in terms of transformation of our perspective. We're looking at death in terms of understanding our own impermanence, which can make us feel much more alive and much more open to love. And we're considering what kinds of things had to be let go of in order for us to be where we are now, in order to receive the nourishment that we get. So that's the second card. The third card is the Four of Discs. Oops, this side. Here we go. So the Four of Discs is in Marie White's vision is very much about balancing and harmonizing and being in harmony with our environment. So recognizing the innate structure that exists in the world around us, recognizing our place within it, and seeing the inherent balance that we have in the world, and the ways in which we contribute to that or not. So in what ways are we contributing to the balance? Because when things are balanced, it's possible for us to see more clearly, and it's possible for us to be open to receiving. And it's also a balance, you know, of offering and receiving. Yeah. So rather than giving and taking, which I know we associate more with the Six of Pentacles, but where things are truly held in a balance. Whether it's, balance of the scales, or whether it's a balance of four things that rotate, balance of directions, recognizing the ways in which we contribute and the ways in which we receive our nourishment and love from that. Really important. Beautiful. So then, the Seven of Discs. So the keywords I have for the Seven of Discs working with this deck are mission accomplished. So at some point this week, we may have a point where we can sit back and recognize what it means, or what it has meant to go on a journey of really beginning to look at and examine the ways in which the world nourishes us, the way that we're ultimately a part of this beautiful web of life. And maybe even in being really satisfied with some of the choices we've made and with some of the ways in which we've recognized how that dynamic functions for us. The Seven of Discs is special in the Marielle because the way that she links all four of the suits back to the Chariot is really critical to the way she structured the deck. And so by the time you get to the Seven of Discs, which she has last, there is a sense of realization to the process of the Chariot. So let's hope we all get to this place during the week where we can really take stock and recognize the ways in which we've really managed to realize that for ourselves. And then, can you all tell that I trained as a Buddhist pastor? It's like everything ends up being about the Dharma. And it sounds like a homily as I'm talking, because I'm addressing a group of people instead of an individual. It's so funny. Okay. You have to laugh at yourself, or, life is just weird. All right. A Page of Swords. Oh, fascinating. So, for all of this, love and peace and energy and nurturing and, sunshine and rainbows, we have a little bit of an edge here, right? So a lot of us have this wound. I love how there's this gaping teeth kind of wound right at her heart space. So rich in this deck. And, Marie White makes the point in her book that the Page of Swords, has earned the right to wear this red dragon on her skin. The Page of Swords has been through enough, seen enough, done enough. Even though she's still the page, there's an aspect of that to her that gives her the strength and power to wear that dragon. So what are the wounds that we carry? Because this dragon, I think, is a metaphor for those wounds and for that wounding. And if we aren't perpetually in a place of working with that wounding, what becomes of it is, at least according to the guidebook, the red dragon can also consume her. By nurturing ourselves in the world and nurturing and finding sources of nourishment for ourselves on a daily basis in the way that we are in the world, we continue to earn the right to wear that red dragon instead of being consumed by it. And if we want to live compassionately, that's essential. So I remember once that Thich Nhat Hanh said that if he's an incredible man. He's gone back to Vietnam, basically to live out the last days of his life in the most poetic and beautiful way by returning, to a place that was home, and which he fled at a certain point and had to. And he said always through his life that if he didn't practice, his traumas would come back and they'd have the power to consume him. And this has become one of the ways that I really understand this Page of Swords card. It's taken a while for me to kind of unpick that one, the way that she's written it, because it doesn't match RWS at all. Not really. But it's such a powerful message that I feel like that almost, it's more powerful in many ways than the traditional meaning. So there we are. I almost went into a very lengthy diatribe repeating all of the cards and then realized you do not really need to repeat a thing. If anybody wants a recap, they can rewind. It's really hard. So there we go. So this week's lesson, I am open to love in various forms. And I offer that with such a light, happy, happy heart, and with so much gratitude to all of you. So I wish you a beautiful, beautiful weekend, most of all, and a beautiful week to come. And I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Do you want more? I could find a way to be like a little bit more concise. That's probably necessary. Who knows? Who knows? But your feedback would be great. Let me know what you want to see in terms of a weekly reading, and I may just give a few different possibilities a try. But this one really occurred to me today and felt like the right kind of direction. So yeah. All right. Have a beautiful weekend, as I said, everybody, and I will see you again soon.